What is up, Talks
That's
in the
good.
City? It is your host, Dom, and it is...
Hi, yes, sir. Here you go.
So today, we are coming in with an episode a little bit special for my boy, Ty.
Hey, hold on.
We are trying to not only educate people, but shine some light on a mental disorder called schizophrenia.
Schizophrenia, yo.
My boy has it pretty... You guys are going to find out how pretty bad
Yeah,
it is.
it gets pretty bad. So for you guys, basically today, this is gonna be like a timeline sort of how my life is with living with schizophrenia, from the beginning stages to the worst depths. I'm talking like things you would think like, why is this guy doing this? Like the worst things you could possibly imagine someone doing, all into the point of being healthy and being here talking to you guys, running a podcast, rapping, reselling, doing everything. So this is just a timeline. This is gonna be sort of like just to raise awareness, sort of to like give you guys an idea of like what it's like living with a mental illness, because we all have everyone's gonna deal with it at some point or another. We're all gonna deal with mental challenges. Like mental illness is very real. They have a whole month for it, so we're just gonna go into that.
All right, so I'm going to ask you some questions about not only schizophrenia for your experience, but, other people's experience that they might experience or might deal with, or day-to-day challenges. All right, so Ty, what is schizophrenia?
What is schizophrenia? Basically, schizophrenia, it affects how you view, feel, and interact with reality. It's your perception on reality. And so for me, not all schizophrenics are like this. Some people think that your first idea about schizophrenic is, oh, they hear voices, right? Not all schizophrenics hear voices. For some, it's just paranoia, delusions, hallucination, like some hallucinations. You know what I'm saying? For me, I do hear voices. So that's something called an auditory hallucination. So I hear voices. You feel me? That's my main challenge with schizophrenia. There are lots of other challenges with my schizophrenia. I've had it all: paranoid, delusions, pretty much everything. Like whatever would come with schizophrenia. So yeah, that's what schizophrenia is.
So how does it affect your daily life?
That's a good question. So for my daily life, like I do the same thing you guys do. I get out of bed, I brush my teeth, I resell for my work. I'm not employed, but I'm self-employed. I resell, I do e-commerce. I go to school. I'm in school for construction. I graduate next week. Shout out to Skill Trades. So I do my thing. I hang out with my friends. I have a very active social life. I see my friends. I see friends at least 3-4 times a week. So I'm like, I do all the same things you guys do, but how does it affect my daily life? Pretty much picture it that if I'm doing everything that you guys do, I'm fighting voices all the time, no matter what I'm doing. Whether I'm with my friends, whether I'm showering, whether I'm by myself, whether I'm with people, I'm always fighting voices. So it's like, you'll see me in person and you'll just see me doing everything. It's like, that's great. I'm happy I'm doing everything because, it's like, I'm really interacting with like the world. I'm really trying to get out here and be a healthy person. But like, it doesn't really work. It just like it not doesn't work. It just like it doesn't work the same way. Like I'm always fighting voices. I'm always struggling and suffering internally. So that's just something, and that's another thing, is that when people think like, oh, you hear voices, right? Like they think it's like some like in the distant like whisper. No, the voices I hear are very protruding. They're very loud. They interrupt my thoughts. They will cut off my thoughts. They will gain dominance over my thoughts, and I will be thinking of something, saying something, and they will go louder than that. So that's sort of how, when I say I'm fighting the voices, people think like it's just a symptom or just whatever. But no, I'm actively like physically, like mentally and literally physically fighting the voices, as that's sort of what I deal with. So yeah, I would say that.
So Ty, if you had to explain like what are the different intensities or experiences of schizophrenia that every different person might feel, how would you like categorize or explain it?
That's a good question. So I'll say it like this. There's basically, I guess, there's two sort of main, ways of schizophrenia. There's one where there's the happy route, where you're on antipsychotics. If you don't know, that's the medicine you take to fight schizophrenia. You're on strong antipsychotics, and you're seeing the doctors, you're checking up with your visits, not missing your doses. You're healthy, everything's okay. And then there's psychosis, that's what I'm going to talk to you guys about. Psychosis is the state in schizophrenics where you are deluded, you are sick, you are very ill mentally, you are very ill. You will do crazy things, you will say crazy things, you will think crazy things, you will hear crazy things, you will feel crazy things, you will smell crazy things. That's another thing. That delusions include smell, taste, feel. So these are things that you feel things that aren't there. You can see things that aren't there. Luckily, I've never had that. I don't have that symptom. I've never seen things that aren't really there. That sounds terrifying for me. So, but I've smelled things that aren't there. I've felt things that aren't there. I've tasted things that aren't there. And that's tasted things that aren't there. I will get into that because that is, trust me, you look at me crazy. Trust me, I'm telling you that is.
So, as someone with schizophrenia, how did you learn to deal with it, and how did you learn to like live with the symptoms, live with how it makes you feel every day?
So that's funny. That's a good question. So basically, when we talk about the timeline, which I will get into the full timeline for you guys. Basically, I was convinced, I was deluded of all types of things. You like, remember, I hear voices. So when you're sick, when you're mentally ill and you don't know what's happening to you, it's very easy to be deluded. It's like don't get me wrong, there's schizophrenics that don't hear voices, that have paranoia and delusions, and they think all types of crazy things. For me, it's like it's 10 times easier to be deluded when you're hearing voices that sound human in your head that are telling you these things. I was convinced that I was on a special mission with God. I was convinced that, and this is up to this, and then so things, there's always a timeline for things. I was convinced that the government was talking in my head with speakers in my playing in my brain. I was convinced of all crazy things. And then so I was literally in my grandma's kitchen one day. I was just helping her out. I was there at my grandma's. And then it just like, we were talking about something random. And it was like, this is the moment where I say I believe in God. As you guys will know, we're both Christian. This is the moment where I would say I believe in God, and that's the moment I did start believing in God in a healthy way. Is I was staying in my kitchen, I was talking to her, and we were just talking about something completely random, not anything. I didn't even know I had schizophrenia at the time, keep in mind. And so we were talking about something, and it was just the craziest revolution. The voices said one thing, and I was just like, instead of always being paranoid and scared and like think it's the government, I was like, you know what? Like, this might just be schizophrenia. And it was just like, it was this monumental life change where after I said that, like the voices were like, they just went quiet for a second. And I was like, oh shit, like, hold on. Now that I'm thinking properly, like, hold on, this might be, and keep in mind, like, that sounds crazy to you guys, but like, when you're living with schizophrenia and you're in psychosis, as we mentioned earlier, look, if you don't fully understand what I mean by psychosis, go look it up. There's drugs-induced psychosis, so you don't have to be schizophrenic. You can be induced into psychosis by drugs, and then psychosis is that's what happens to schizophrenics. So yeah, I was in psychosis, so I have a very soft brain to these delusions, and then I just snapped out of it. I just woke up. It was just like a miracle moment from God. For me, as a Christian, we're both Christians, it was just from God. And then I was just like, okay, I think this is schizophrenia. And then the next day, I called my doctor. I went to the office, and I'd already been diagnosed with schizophrenia from my doctor. So this wasn't like, now I was like healthily putting the pieces of the puzzle together. I was like, okay, my doctor told me I'm schizophrenic. I just had this revelation. I can't go back. This doesn't make sense anymore. Like, as a functioning human being, regardless of how deep I was in psychosis, I was like, this doesn't make sense to me anymore. This just isn't right. It's schizophrenia. That's what it is. This doesn't happen to people. And I thought that because I was like, why is everyone around me not dealing with this shit? Why am I the only one who is being tracked by the government? And I was like, you know what? That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. Right? It's funny. It's funny. It really is. It doesn't make sense. And so like that was the moment I was like, okay, this doesn't make sense at all. I'm schizophrenic. Let me go get some help. And from that day forward, that was the best day of my life. That is what changed the course of action of my life to get treatment and to start living with my schizophrenia, to tie it all together.
So when Ty was talking about like how he thought he was on a special mission from God, I was actually in that part of his life. So basically, we were going to Planet Fitness and we were walking from Wendy's, and this guy had called me and he said something weird to me I've never heard someone say before. He said, I had a talk with God. That was the first thing he said on the phone, and I was like, alright, bro, that's cool as fuck. Like, if you dead ass did, like, that's cool. But like, I was weirded out. I was like, why does that what he led the conversation with? So off the rip, I was like, something might be wrong. And then this guy pulled up, and we just dapped up, and everything was normal. We were talking like normal. Everything seemed fine. And we were walking down the street after eating, and he starts saying this thing to people. He's like, hey, wet pussy stranger. And I'm like, what the fuck is he saying, bro? And then I asked him, I'm like, yo, what does that mean? And this guy had no clue. Like, he had no fucking clue.
No, actually, I think I did, but I didn't want to say it because I was like convinced it was God telling me that. So that's the funny part. I didn't want to like I was just like so in the moment where I was like, okay, he doesn't understand. I was so tweaked out where I was like, no, he doesn't get my purpose. Let me just keep it. Bro. I don't remember I don't really remember what specifically was going on at that time to make me be saying that out loud. I'll be honest, I don't remember. But that's just go ahead. That's
and we were walking, and I just asked him. I was like, dude, what the fuck does that mean? And he's, I don't know. And I'm like, wow. So I off rip, boom, something slapped my head. I'm like, yo, either this guy's like heavy on drugs, dude, or like something's actually wrong. So I asked him, I'm like, bro, are you good? And he deadass didn't know. He was like, I'm fine, fam. I'm good. Like, everything's all right. His words, yeah. Exact his words. So I'm like, all right. And then we talked normal the whole way. Everything was fine. But then we get to the gym, and this guy starts like saluting God. He's like, and in the gym, we're on the Stairmaster, and I just remember. I remember. He's like, this was a holy workout. Everything, glory to God. And like, it's not bad, but like, it's nobody screams right. That it's in the gym.
Right. It's not fully right. Trust me.
So like, now pieces are clicking in my head. I'm like, dude, like something's clearly up. Like, this is just not normal. Like, for someone to do and not know why. So I had looked it up. And then, we hung out this was, I believe, like on a Wednesday or a Thursday, one of the days after boxing. Yeah. And then we decided, he called me and said, let's go to church. He shout out Scarbarian Boxing. But he had called me and he's like, hey, do you want to go to church with me? Like, I go to church every Sunday. I'm devoted to God. And I'm like, sure, dude. Like, the way you were acting in Planet Fitness, I can tell. Like, let's go, dude. Yeah. I'm down. Show me what it's about. And I'm Christian. Like, not show me what church is about or anything like that. But I'm just like, I don't really go to church. I don't really go to church. So it's just like, yeah, show me. Let's go. And then, we get there. And do you want to tell them your side of the story? Because I can't explain it. I can't explain his perspective. But do you want to tell them?
Okay, so guys, I will tell you my side of the story. So basically, I'll try to explain this the best way I can. It's going to be hard to explain because when you're having these type of delusions, it's so far from reality. It's like, it doesn't even make sense. I'll explain it to you. I'll say it, the medical term of what I would tell the doctor, and I'll try to give you guys a more in-depth of what was really going on in my mind. So we were in church, right? And then we were just saying that everything was fine. My symptoms were not acting up. And keep in mind, I'm still in psychosis. Like, I'm still believing all this fuck shit. But sorry, my symptoms are still good, or they're so flatlined for the most part. And then this baby's crying in church. Like, this baby just crying. And so I'm like, it's whatever. Like, I'm not like paying attention to the baby. Like, I can hear the baby obviously. And then the voices in my head are like, oh, you like that, huh? And then this is where all my symptoms just started getting big. I started arguing with the voices because to me, in my head, I'm talking to God. I'm thinking, and keep in mind, right, why would God tell you, do you like the motive or the sound of babies? I'm like, right, like, that's weird to me. But for me, I still don't know. I'm still in psychosis. So I'm like, oh, no, I don't like that. What are you talking about? And I'm arguing with the voices, which, by the way, if you're schizophrenic right now, don't ignore it. Don't argue with your voices. It's a symptom. Ignore it. So I'm doing that, and I start getting these like physical feelings on my like not on my skin because it's a symptom, but like I feel it physically. That's like it's like a pain, like it's like a flaring pain, but it feels like someone's judging me. So I'll say it in the way that like, so Dom didn't say anything. No one in the church said a word. Everyone's focused on church. I'll say it flatline. I was convinced this guy, and I was convinced the entire church was accusing me of being a pervert. And so I just felt these physical symptoms of like judgment. Like I listen, it only makes sense to me. I know what you're thinking. How can you feel a physical symptom of like it feels like judgment is like closing in on me in a way. Like it feels like the crowd is like exuding judgment physically. If that makes sense, that's the best way I can explain it. And so the whole time in church, I was completely convinced that the whole church thought I was a pervert. I was like, bro, I don't even like babies. Like, the baby's just crying. Like, what the fuck does that have to do with anything? And I was so paranoid. I was like, bro, Dom is turning against me. I'm like, why is he? And like, because it was like, it felt like one person, then the next, and the whole church. And that's what it seemed like in my head, in my psychosis. So it was just like, I was just so paranoid. But then when I look back on that day, We had an amazing day. We went to church. We were drinking. We were having time. We were having a good vibes. We never, obviously, because I'm sick, he never said anything out loud to me, except for just talking to me like my friend. And the whole time I was fully convinced.
I remember the whole day like it was yesterday. That now that we've started talking about it and bring it up, I actually do remember you got up and went to the bathroom, and you were so frantic about it. I was like, why is he so like antsy about it?
I can't believe he noticed that.
I knew.
I was hiding in the bathroom. Keep in mind, I was hiding. I was in the bathroom. I didn't want to go back out. I was so scared. I'm glad that's funny. He actually noticed me frantically going to the bathroom, because I was like, I didn't even want to talk to you. I was like, I thought you were like completely on me. I was like, bro, look what I gotta get out of here, bro. Like, fuck, these people are turning on me, bro. And that's like guys, just keep in mind, like it's a very serious disease. Like, we're talking about this, we're raising awareness. Just try to understand me from my side, And just a little PSA, like, right now, I am on very strong antipsychotics. I've been highly medicated for a while now. I'm talking of sound mind and body. So just hear me, understand my side from when I was sick. So that was, you can tell. Like, you can tell sometimes with these things.
And now, like, because we're trying to raise awareness, not only what did you do, but in someone's situation, if they experience what you experienced of hiding in fear, experiencing those symptoms, what did you do? And then after, I would like you to note what would you advise someone to do if that happened to them?
See, that's the worst part about it, is that how could I advise a schizophrenic in deep psychosis, which again, look that up, and if you don't fully understand my definition, how could I advise a schizophrenic in deep psychosis to not run away in fear, to not react like this? Like, guys, just keep in mind, like, you think I sound crazy. I was crazy. That's the thing. I'm saying I'm crazy. So you have to understand, like, yes, it's a crazy thing. It's very crazy. You are very crazy when you're schizophrenic and not on medication. So, like, I'm hiding in fear because I'm genuinely scared. Like, if your whole reality, you're a healthy person, your whole reality, everyone starts acting completely out of the ordinary. Nothing wrong with your brain. Just everyone starts, like, just imagine your best friend, your completely healthy person, comes up to you and starts like just imagine your best friend starts looking at you weird. And then, like, I'll just give you an example. Like, say your best friend, you guys are crossing the street, you're just standing with your best friend. Say he looks at you weird. Then you're like, okay, whatever. And then someone across the street looks at you weird. Okay, whatever. Then everyone around you, there's the plaza over there, there's a building over there. You start thinking people in the building are looking down at you. That's how it feels. It's so real. It's so very real. It feels 100% real to you as a schizophrenic. I will say, sorry to cut you off, but I want to touch on this because so many people have explained this to me that they felt this, and the most common thing that I think people can relate to schizophrenia maybe is, have you ever got so high that you're so paranoid? You think people are looking at you. Paranoia is a very protruding trait in schizophrenia.
If you've ever experienced that, that's a way you can relate, right?
That is the perfect entry borderline to schizophrenia. Perfect.
Because I know the first time I smoked, I had paranoia crazy.
That's a perfect example. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah. Paranoia and anxiety, that's one of the biggest things you'll deal with in schizophrenia. Keep in mind, every day I was paranoid, the government's watching me, God's talking to me. And, like, keep in mind, like, it was like, when I believed God was talking to me, it was this crazy thing where he was trying to release me from being talked to. And so every day was this challenge where I was like, God, please stop talking to me. And I thought, like, the devil was, like, fighting God to keep talking to me. And I thought that was just a crazy thing. So it was just like you're always paranoid. You're always scared. It doesn't matter if you think it's God. It doesn't matter if you think it's the government. I thought all of this. I thought it was God. I thought it was the government. I thought it was the devil. I thought it was I thought it was, I'll get into the timeline. I thought it was the people from a gap year program I went to. I thought it was a group that was summoning an evil spell over me. I thought multiple crazy things, and I was always paranoid and anxious. That is a perfect entry. Yeah, definitely.
So, Ty, I have a very important question that I wanted to ask. I actually, I smiled when I wrote this question because I want you to touch on this for everybody who may be experiencing this. So, have there been times where schizophrenia may have greatly impacted decisions, things you're doing? Has there been times where schizophrenia has greatly impacted your life?
I'll name two situations. Now, guys, keep in mind, right? So, okay, the first one was if you're in Toronto, do you know Warden Station? Yes, of course you know Warden Station. It's online too. It's a station in Toronto. It's a train station. I was at the train station. I was getting off the bus. My symptoms were completely fine. Keep in mind, I was deluded thinking I was on a special mission with God. And then as I'm walking up the stairs to go to the top platform, to go to all the buses, go to the next train system, whatever, the voices started talking to me. God, right, started talking to me. And he was like, throw your material possessions and come home to me, right? So this was where things started getting a little crazy. So I was like, at first, keep in mind, I was healthy enough to be like, no, I don't want to throw my bag. I have my phone in here. I have my wallet in here. I have cash in here. I have all my stuff in here. And then so he's like, no, come home to me. Come home to me. If you complete this challenge, and if you stay out for 24 hours and don't go home, you will come home to me. And keep in mind, I was so religious, right? I was very sick, right? Religion is not being sick. There's a big difference between being you would not throw your possessions, you would not do any crazy things for religion. But I was doing this for my religion, right? So then I was like, okay, I threw my bag out the side. And he's like, start praying. I knelt down on the floor of the subway station. I started praying. And he's like, take off your shirt. And then so I was like, I fought it for a bit, and I took off my shirt. And keep in mind, now I'm shirtless in the middle of winter in Warden Station with everyone passing me, getting off the buses, praying. And he said, and then I started saying random stuff out loud. He was telling me to say crazy shit out loud. So now picture how I look at Warden Station, shirtless, bag on the floor, bag thrown on the floor. And he's like, throw your phone, come home to me. And I threw my phone. That was the first iPhone I ever bought with my when I was 16. I worked at Canada's Wonderland. Shout out Canada's Wonderland. That was my first phone I ever bought. It was an iPhone 11. I saved up all my money from that job, my first job ever, and I bought a phone. And I threw it, and it cracked, and it broke, and I never got it back, and it was broken. And so I had thrown my bag, I had thrown everything, and he was like, stay out and come home to me. And I was under this crazy delusion that I would go to God and die if I stayed out 24 hours in Warden Station. And so I was there for an hour, like praying and just like, keep in mind, don't think this is some like religious, no, I was very sick. So this is not like some like, wow, like that's very religious. No, it's nothing like that. So I had thrown my possessions, I had thrown my bag, and then by the time all this is done, I was like, okay, I'm done. I said no to the voices. I'm like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm embarrassed. Like keep in mind, I wasn't as crazy as you think I might have been. I was embarrassed. Like these people are passing me. I'm feeling the same emotions as if your friend dared you. Hey, take off your shirt and start kneeling on the floor. And I was licking the floor too. Keep in mind, the dirty floor on Warden Station. I was licking the floor.
Why?
Because they told me to. Because the voices told me to. I was licking the floor and doing all of this stuff. And I finally said, no, I'm done. I don't want to go home to you. I'm done. I want to go home. And keep in mind, I wasn't even living with my parents on this time. I was living on my own. I was paying rent. So I was like, I'm done. And then I packed up and went down. Phone was broken. Took my bag. And my money was gone. My butterfly knife was gone. Half my stuff was gone.
People took it?
People took it.
Fuck.
People took it. Yup, there you go. So that was my night. And then guess what? I still went on believing that it was God. So that was my night as a schizophrenic deep in psychosis. And so I want you guys to realize how impactful this shit can be on your life. Like it can literally stop the course of your life where like, wow, I don't have a phone anymore. I lost all my money. Like I'm working a job and it was about maybe $700 in there. Gone. Fully gone. And my phone. Everything. So that was, and I'll go to another situation, which this one stands out to me a lot because of just the absolute, like, it's just so, to me it feels unfair how this can be a symptom. So I'll just put it like this. I was at Scarborough Town Center, STC, right? So I was at STC. I was just walking. I don't even remember what I was doing there. Maybe it was an errand. I don't even remember. And I was walking past this guy, just this Indian guy. And then, so now this gets into the part where you say, yes, schizophrenics taste and feel things that aren't there. And smell things that aren't there. And all of a sudden, there's just this horrible, disgusting, just the smell of absolute, like, shit. Just is, in my nostrils, in my mouth. I taste it. And they're like, he just had an orgasm. And the guy who passed me, this guy just passed me normally. This is a random guy who just passed me. And I was fully convinced he had just orgasmed into my mouth. Just the randomest. You know how, okay, sex ed class. You know how guys orgasm out of their ass? So I'm not like just pulling this out of literally nowhere. Guys do have a G-spot in their ass. They can orgasm me up out of their ass. So I was convinced this guy had just orgasmed into my mouth. Now keep in mind, I hadn't eaten anything that day. I started throwing up. Now, I want you guys to take a moment and think about this for a second. It's not real. What I'm tasting, what I'm smelling, it's a delusion. That's all it is. It's not real. But I was throwing up because of how actually real, and like I was really throwing up because of how actually real it tasted and smelled. Like I was vomiting. I hadn't eaten anything that day, and I was vomiting water. I was like vomiting. And I went to LCBO because I was convinced, okay, if I drink a beer, then I'll wash the germs out with alcohol. And so I went to LCBO. I started drinking beer, throwing up. Drinking beer, throwing up. Drinking beer, throwing up over and over and over. I gargled it in the back of my throat and forced myself to throw up. Over and over and over. Those two situations, the worst things I've ever done in psychosis. It was just disgusting. It was terrible. It was horrible. Warden Station, it was horrible. It was disgusting. I was licking the floor of Warden Station, a train station. I was licking the floor. It's just disgusting. It's just like psychosis. Like just shout out to people who are in, like if you are listening to this right now and you are thinking, this has to be the change. This has to be where, if you are watching this right now, you are in psychosis. Please go for help. These things aren't real. Grasp reality. If you are watching this and you have any of these problems, you think you have, oh no, but I think that happened. No, I don't have that. I just know. Trust me. Things like this don't happen. It's all find help. Any schizophrenics out there, anyone in psychosis that you've been diagnosed with schizophrenia, people are telling you of schizophrenia, listen to them. It's true. I just want you guys to know that because it's a terrible disease.
Well, Ty, thank you for explaining all of these things to me and explaining all of these things to the viewers. And I just want to mention one thing. Some people may laugh. Some people may hate in the comments on what he's saying.
All right, so I'm okay with it. I'm here to be open. So I talked to you out of sound, mind, and body today in 2025. What's this? April is starting to be April. So I talked to you today in sound, mind, and body where I'm telling you, like, look, I'm on very heavy antipsychotics. I've been healthy for a while now. I know they're just symptoms. I look back on all of these experiences. Everything was a symptom. Everything was a delusion, hallucination, paranoia, anxiety, everything. So I can look back on this healthily and say, this is my experience. You can laugh at me, you can call me crazy. That's fine. I was crazy. I was completely crazy. I was crazy, and it's sad. It's very sad. I had people trying to help me, and I said, no, I don't hear voices. Every time I went to the hospital, must be 10 plus times, and every time they asked, are you hearing voices? I said no, because I was convinced it was a special mission from God. And so that's just to show that how much a schizophrenic can struggle. Like, you can literally be in the hospital, your doctor can sit you down, which he did, and diagnose you with schizophrenia. And you'll be like, I didn't even grasp it. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Whatever. I don't even know what. I'm not even paying attention. Like I'm literally focused on the voices in my head. I'm not even paying attention. So this is just to show, like, it's a serious disease, guys. It makes you crazy. Like, these experiences I'm saying, I would never do this stuff now. I would never believe this stuff now, think this stuff now, and to add, I would never even have these symptoms now because of how highly medicated I am. So that's not even an issue. So it's just something to think about. Yes, I was crazy. So to point to all the haters out there who are going to comment it, yes, I was crazy. But now I'm not, and now this is my experience. And so this is not to judge. This is to help people who are out there like me. I was 17 going through this shit, guys. 17. That's not, like, that's pretty young to be doing all this fuck shit. Like, that's, like, come on, guys. Just spare me some change and, like, try to understand my side.
But yeah, I just wanted to point that out, that he has amazing confidence for even mentioning that. And if you're a hater, the one thing I was gonna say, you probably don't even got the balls to say half the shit this guy's saying. So I salute you for that shit. And we will catch you guys in the next one. I hope you have a good night. I hope you had a good time watching our podcast.
Schizophrenia awareness.
We'll catch you on the next one.
Sir.
Bye bye.
Bye, guys.